Welcome back. Part 2 of the Parthenon and moving past the custom steps, which is written kind of iteratively in many steps. Not too hard to figure out, but it's a large repetitive script that allows for the angle differences and the smoothing of the stairs and optical illusions that can happen. And I continued the exact same thing with what was happening on the columns. So the columns themselves are pretty interesting. I've brought them in. If we take a look at the initial one right down through here, you can see that the structure of that from the top view is fairly interesting. The building of the column, fully parametric from circles to arrays on splitting and trimming, joining again and putting through a sine curve graph mapper. So you can actually do a beautiful lofted form that you have a lot of control over. So not just a simple column, a very complex column, which is usually wonderful to play parametrically. And then positioning that, I've decided to go in and make a grid, which is happening here. And the grid itself is fairly interesting. So what I use for the grid is a tool over here, which is just a mesh sphere, which allows me to select and see points with a bigger surface. So you can see the blue selected points here of all points that have been selected. And then I'm using the masking tool in the shift split tree tool, which will allow me through a little bit of culling trees to really get access to those corner units, which do corner columns, which do something different. You'll notice they angle in on the diagonal versus angling in just to the X and Y axis. And then again, I come down and I grab the rest of the objects as well, all the other objects, but I'm being very selective in what I'm choosing, and the masking is something that you want to get used to being able to write and understand your data prior to any path mapper or any other programming that you might want to do. It's my favorite tool for gaining access. Then I'm going to angle everything in and make every single thing angle in differently according to what it is. So if I take a look at all these geometries, from the corner posts to the one side post to the post on the other side, you can see how I can move through every single one and have it move accordingly to its mask from the main data, all to one number slider. And here it is. And you can really accentuate this. It takes a little bit of time because you're moving surfaces. You can see the diagonals dodging in, and you can see the angles on the edges dipping in, and that's to have an optical illusion. So very fun. The one thing I'd wished I'd done is made this circle region trim go deeper as it went higher up on the column, which plays with the light. Technically, it kind of does it through the scaling and the sine curve, but a really nice model is shaping up here. I'm going to save this next section, and I put in all of the important things to remember through the columns. The columns have a monumental portion in the Doric Order, the drums of the white, and I treated them as separate drums as I lofted them up, as if they were being carved and stacked. They were made on site in fluted profiles. They deepen towards the top, which is something that happens through the scaling, and the emphasis is on the shadowy lines. The entasis is the tapered columns are swollen, it should say, in section to about 2/5 the way up, which is what the sine curve does to correct the illusion of the concave profile, and the slight, really thinking about a fisheye lens and how you can correct that through geometrically fine tuning. So I really think this is the way I like the script. I like to build things up from the ground. I'm staying with the archetypes of architecture as we move through, and I think it'll be very exciting as we research and find out more. The end columns, which I treated as the corner columns, had closer spacing, which is given by the change in the scale, and a thicker diameter than the major columns. I think I left the diameter the same, but I have the ability to change that because I can deal with those corner units exactly. I just don't want them to flash out of the grid. I want them to move towards the grid. So I have to play with some vectors to fix that if I feel it's a subtlety I want to improve. The incline diagonally towards the center, whereas the outer pieces just incline inwards. So you have to be very careful on your vectors to how you choose to move this vector in the Y for this unit, this one in the X, and this one you've got to construct what is really nice, the use of the cross product. So I was able to bring in the cross product and find exactly that diagonal of how it goes up. So there's really a lot of tricks and beautiful things in the script. I'm so happy to be able to logically plug through these. And we're going to go on and we're going to work on, what are we going to work up? The entablature, the top, and maybe we'll even bring in Athena model to make this model. So I think this is very exciting. I'll be sharing this on GitHub, and if you want to support me on Patreon, that'd be great. So the Parthenon, and let's continue. Thanks for watching.